All right, so now going back, I have to wait for this thing to do its thing, and then I have to mute it so we're not hearing two echoes. Well, we're not hearing an echo. So give me one, just bear with me. All right, excellent. So let's now go back to what we're doing. All right, so as I was saying, for those of you, I don't know if you heard me, we are talking about a consortium. What I'm trying to do, or we are trying to do, is put together people from the counselors, the psychiatrists, the commissioners, the coaches, whoever, get maybe a representative or two from them to create this consortium, which is innovative. We also need young people as part of this. We need people who can think outside of the box, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So let me go back to sharing my screen, and then everybody will participate. This is not just going to be me talking, and this is just to provide some kind of structure under which we communicate today, if that makes sense. All right, so let's take a look at that. Innovation, mental health campaign. Okay, so this one. So this is what I was sharing. So we need a mental health campaign in our different areas. We obviously need money to do this, and in order to have money, you have to have something outside of the. You have to be something different. A lot of this, USAID, for example, is not going to fund anything that is normal most of the time. It has to be new. It has to be engaging. This is where it is. So how do we have trauma awareness in Nigeria? What do we do? How do we do it? Those are the things I want you to think about today, because we're going to deliberate on it. If you're interested in being part of the consortium, you also let us know today. All right, who should be involved? And so when we talk about who should be involved, I want you to take notes and put it down. Who should be involved? Who, right? Access, not take notes, sorry about it. In your chat box, tell me who should be involved in the consortium. I've already said a few things. Who should be involved in it? This consortium, this power consortium of everyone in the mental health space. Who should be involved? There might be more people that I've already said. So type in what you in your chat box. Give me your ideas of who should be involved. So in your chat box, who should be involved in the consortium that we're trying to put together? I'm waiting for you all to type. Okay, commissioners?
Parents.
Parents, laymen and women, all mental health champions, okay?
In other words, all the stakeholders that have been identified that my presentation used to, from start to finish. That's right.
All caregivers.
Yeah, they'll listen to you.
What is CSO? I'm sorry, what is CSO?
Civil society organizations, non-profits, organizations that work outside, and together with government to make things work.
So like NGOs?
Yeah, basically,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Each people have different acronyms for different things. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you so much. All right, excellent. So it's like all hands on deck, basically, is what I'm hearing. All hands on deck. The commissioners, we invited 3 commissioners. 2 showed up, but even the ones that show up, they're interested. So they want to know moving forward. So even the things that we share here, I'm still going to share with them because they have all committed to this. Hopefully we can get more commissioners on board. Who was the person from Ogun State that said that they implemented all that stuff in their primary care? Who was it? It was a psychologist who shared that. Do you remember who implemented mental health within the primary care from Ogun State? Nobody remembers?
It was the doctor that presented from Ogun State, who was a commissioner.
We didn't have a commissioner for Ogun State. So that's why I'm asking who that was so we can get that commissioner on board. Okay, we'll listen to them. We'll ask.
We can check it out on our list. I think we can check it out on our list or check with Noga. Yes, Noga should be able to provide
Abby
for us.
Bims, can you hear?
Yes, ma'am. I'm trying to check the list now.
Okay, thank you.
Well, let me come in. It was me, Dr. Adebowale, that presented that.
Okay. Dr. Adebowale.
Okay.
Is Dr. Adebowale, but he's not here today?
Thank you.
Okay, I presented it as part of the program I coordinated while I was still at the Neuropsychiatric Hospital. It was a very innovative program of integrating mental health into primary care. And that is still on. It started 2009. We went statewide 2011, and it's still ongoing now. I've disengaged from Aro, but the program is still there. It's actually one of my legacies in Aro. Thank you.
Excellent. Well done. So, I think one of the things that needs to happen is when this kind of things happens in one state, it should be replicated. Shouldn't it be just replicated in all the other states? I mean, what is the process for doing that? I'm just asking.
Yes,
or does it just take one person to do it? I mean, you know what I mean?
Yes, there's the move to integrate mental health into primary care, which even at the Federal Ministry of Health level, it's been adopted. But you see, that's why I said yesterday, the policies alone is not, sometimes we have so many brilliant policies, but the implementations are really not there. And it depends on the enthusiasm of professionals. It's professionals who will drive it. The commissioner, the minister, they may have their own specialty areas they are interested in. When professionals don't drive programs, it won't move anywhere. We give excuses, no fund, nothing. I tell you, it was a commitment of professionals at the neuropsychiatry. Even Aro though is a federal institution, but to take mental health, we knew it was wrong. Just sitting down at Aro, delivering service, people traveling from all the place. No, institutional care, highly stigmatized. And we said, no, we need to break the wall and move out. And we started gradually until we got to the level. And we didn't have the manpower to really go full community mental health. Then what should we do? This task shifting, task sharing. And then we were able to also, have some coordination or maybe partnership with some agencies outside, specifically some friends in UK. We did some partnership. Actually, we got some of specialists in primary care psychiatry to come down, and we packaged this program, and then it was delivered. It's actually the WHO program. It's part of the MH Gap, program, about upskilling mental health service. So we're able to implement it. And I tell you, it's still a model in this nation. Even the Federal Ministry of Health eventually acknowledged it. But it's still the drag of professionals moving things forward. We can still stay in a specialist hospital, the neuropsychiatric hospital. There is not much we can do just from there until we all are, into this, taking services out, out of the box, as you said. So thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well done. So it is basically what I'm hearing, and which is the truth in a lot of sectors, is the professionals there has to be passion behind it. There has to be energy behind it to drive this, to drive whatever it is. But how about access? Do professionals have access to do what they're supposed to do? Like did it take you to actually go lobby a commissioner? Did they take you to actually go lobby somebody in, I don't know what the political names are, but
okay.
The permanent secretary or somebody? I mean, what did it take for you to actually get it done? Because
Okay.
professionals might say, I'm a professional, I know my job, I can do all of this stuff, but all of the lobbying things become more political sometimes, right?
Yeah. So let me share more experience about it. At the when we initiated the program, Arrow has a lot of people know Arrow is what will I say? It's a trademark, and with that name, we went out. Being a federal institution, we went to the the commissioner that we have this program. Arrow is there, but people will not benefit from mental health service just like that. As you need to take this program out. Community thing is the in thing now. I say, okay, many times some of what they're afraid of is, oh, they want to make us to spend more money. Sometimes that's how they just zero down. And then we were able, that's really part of the thing, that we're able to convince them that this thing is needed, and we assure them they will not have to spend too much. Many times it's the fear, oh, we don't want to spend money, the money we have is not enough, and all that. And they hear mental health, oh, they don't see mental health as a major issue.
Yes.
So everybody is laying back. And so we were able to convince, so it's really part of the skill that you are able to walk across boundaries to really get stakeholders. And then we are actually, getting in touch with the state. We now say, well, the primary care level, the primary care service actually not directly under the state, it's under the local government. So you need to go to the local government. And there was this local government service commission, and we went there. Fortunately, we met somebody who had a goodwill, a medical doctor who was the head of there, and who said, wow, and was actually a friend. Sold it to him. He said, don't worry, Dr. Diba, we're going to get this thing done. And that's how the thing, so you need to go from stakeholders to, bargaining and convincing people. People want to see your product and want to see, but most of the questions sometimes, what is the need for me? I mean, we should not, yes, that is a Nigerian factor. And you tell them, this is not about what is in it for me. For me, for bringing the product, there is nothing in me for me. I'm just passionate about delivering, service. And when they look at, they see the genuineness, and they, one way or the other, you're able to convince. But when they look at you and they see you two have a game you want to play, it becomes something else. So I think these are some of the issues we encountered. A lot of experience to share from that program, really. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. So we're glad that you can share that with us. But it's true, it's like people always want to know what is in it. Like, why are you doing this? Like, why are you doing this? Which is one of the reasons I was saying yesterday. It's like what we are trying to do. There's no personal benefits, honestly. Well, I guess the personal benefit will be that we see a nation that is moving in the trajectory of wellness, systemically and structure-wise. So let's move on with the thing, but I've taken a lot of notes. A lot of things that you've said, I think, transcends nations, though, because everything you've said also will take place in the UK, it will take place in Ghana, it will take place here. You have to lobby people, you have to be passionate about it, you have to be consistent, and you have to answer the so what question, like why should I sign up for whatever it is that you're selling? You have to be a good salesperson. And this is what we tell professionals all the time. You can be a professional, but you also have to sell your product and whatever that it is that you're selling. And we're selling wellness. We should be able to sell it properly, right? All right, so let's move on, unless anybody has anything to say about that, but we'll move on to the slide. All right, so hopefully you can see me. All right. One of the things that was, you should be informed, you said all stakeholders. One of the things that was said yesterday, and I heard that very clearly, is knowledge ahead of certificates. So because we're at our institute, Jazz Education, we hear that from Nigerians all the time, and it's always, is there a certificate? Am I getting a certificate? It's like the certificate is like the thing. But I didn't understand how entrenched it was until yesterday, when almost half of the speakers were talking about this, about knowledge ahead of certificate. That means actually, but I think is what I call learning though, because I tell students all the time, learning is change in behavior. Learning is change in behavior. So you don't know that you've learned until you're cognitively transformed. And when you're cognitively transformed, it's going to transform your behavior. So this is how you know that learning has occurred. So learning is a change in behavior. And so when we have a lot of certificates and there is no change in the mindset cognitively, and there's no change which transforms to the way we behave, then that means learning hasn't taken place. So you can have degrees and you can have all of those whatever certificates, but if it wouldn't do you a world of good if it doesn't transform you, if you don't become a better person, and you're not going to be able to help other people because you cannot give what you don't have. I tell my therapist and my psychologist in training, this is one thing I tell them: you cannot take clients beyond your level of differentiation. If your level of differentiation is a 4 out of 10, it means that your clients will always be here. It doesn't matter, because we're dealing with human minds, we're dealing with emotions. It is not like a psychiatrist who will give you medication, to change this. But when you're trying to transform people, you have to get them, so you have to be transformed, get to a higher level so you can bring your clients up. The same thing would work for a whole bunch of people. If you're a parent who is at a low level parent, your kids will be low level unless something.
The audio is lost. Yeah.
Hello? Oh, did somebody say something? All right. So learning matters, and I think we all in our space.
To our rescue. Thank you. I can hear you.
I think Dr. Samba is saying he can't hear you. Maybe you can increase the volume a little bit.
My volume is at 77.
Okay, so maybe it's from his end then.
Dr. Sandbeck, you can't hear me? Can everybody else hear me?
I can.
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
You're loud and clear.
Okay, so Bims, maybe you want to work with Dr. Sambi and see what's going on, please. Thanks. Maybe it has to be from your end. All right, so let me go back and continue with that presentation. So whatever we do in this consortium, training has to be big. Training has to be a part of it, but it's training that changes, that translates into learning. So it has to be experiential. So I mean, I'm surprised that we don't have, and the professionals, the psychologists, the psychiatrists in the house, let me know. Do you guys have practicum for students? There's a practicum, is there internships? That I know the psychiatrists will have it. I'm talking about the psychologists. Is there practicum and internship that is part of the degree? Any psychologist? I don't know if Dr. Sambi can hear me, but anyone else?
I can hear you now. Okay. I can hear you. There's practicum policy in the training of psychologists in Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
At both undergraduate and postgraduate levels of the training. This presumes that the individual psychologist will be exposed to workplace, real-time, real situation of practice of the specialty. And like we should let the world know that there are numerous branches of psychology, developmental psychology, industrial and organizational psychology, clinical psychology, counseling psychology, and a host of others like that. So it is embedded in the program. As I speak with you, the postgraduate students of University of Ibadan are already on their internship at various facilities around the country. And
Absolutely.
so it goes for about
Okay. All right. Very good.
University too. So it is an incorporated thing. Thank you.
Thank
And they're
you.
exposed to mentoring and mentorship too.
And there's exactly. So that's what I was going to ask. And there's supervision.
Is done by those who are hands-on and experienced on the job, who are equally of not less than second degree. You know, these are the way the program of learning and skill in psychology is done in Nigeria. Thank you, ma.
So because we can't do anything well without supervision, without because this whole program is about training. I mean, this whole, when we talk about training, it's experiential. So people have, like Dr. Sambe was saying, you have to go out, you have to experience it, you have to have clients so we can supervise you, and so that we can, because people come to you at the, you know, at their lowest. And so we don't want to do harm, you know, it's part of the ethical principles. You do no harm. And so even when we do this trauma trainings, whatever training certificate you're going to get, so especially to the coaches, I don't know if you have any coaching on here. If we had the president on yesterday, even if you're coaching and you're going to do mental health with people, whatever certificates you're getting, make sure that you do supervision with that, so that you know what you're doing well when it comes to that particular, whatever it is that you're learning. So if you went and you got a cognitive behavioral certificate, for example, it will be good for you to have supervision for that, so you can actually know how it works in real life. If you're doing a trauma training, you need to do the same thing. I think training has to be linked with supervision, because the problem is we don't have enough psychologists. I mean, how many psychologists do we have in Nigeria? Dr. Sambe. Oh, can you guys, did I freeze or you're muted?
Yeah, thank you, ma. I'm putting a finger on the number. I know that it's fewer than the number of psychiatrists, which is like less than 200 in practice. But for undergraduate programs, we have them in multitudes. Unfortunately, because most of them were not prepared for the choice of psychology as a field, we get to lose them to other professions. Those who are registered with NACP, for example, I can say without any fear that are less than 250 to over 20 million Nigerians. But let me quickly add that in the training of psychologists in Nigeria, we try to screw into the heads of our colleagues, younger colleagues, that they should not do beyond their limits. In other words, emphasizing do no harm, referring to some other colleagues who we know have better expertise or interest. So the golden rule of do no harm, the training of the psychologist. And we know that psychological injuries can be lifelong, much more or much worse than physical injuries. So, and that is what.
Absolutely. I think you froze. Are you back?
About the trauma about that is very persistent.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. But I am so surprised by what you said with the numbers of psychologists, because I have Googled it, I have researched it. I couldn't find psychologist number. I could find psychiatrists. There's less than 300 of them. Actually, it says 250 on their website, but I couldn't find a number for psychologists anywhere. We don't in the US. we don't never consider undergrad psychology students psychologists at all. They're not, they don't even, you can get a job.
The same way, sorry to cut you. The same way in Nigeria, it is a universal position that nobody is qualified to be so addressed except until after a second degree training with internship and followed by mentorship.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So for that number, are you all, everybody is with me on here now. So if we have, let's just say 500 psychologists and 500, even if we had 500 practicing psychologists, which we don't. So our notable Dr. Sambe has said there's about 300, right? Or 200 practicing. So psychologists, psychiatrists, let's say we have 500 total. There's 200 million Nigerians. So let's do the math. Who are the math people on there? So let's just do that math. You know that it doesn't even make sense. So, which is why the coaches are so vital. In fact, other nations are using they're just using people and they're training them in mental health 101 to start just doing the basic recognition. You don't have to even do training. I said training, treatment or anything, but they're doing basic things. So everybody needs to be, or every hand needs to be on deck. All the hands need to be on deck. The faith leaders need to be on deck because they're the ones having all of these people in their churches. And so I think strategically reaching faith leaders would be something that the consortium needs to handle. So this consortium is not a lot of people. It just has to have representatives from each of those stakeholders that we've mentioned. It really should have all the commissioners that would say yes. The police departments, they need trauma training, so they don't keep traumatizing people and they don't get traumatized. So we have this, and so what we're proposing is a consortium that has everybody at the table. A consortium that has everybody at the table. So in Nigeria, there's a whole bunch of, there's Clinical Psychologists Association, there's, right? Dr. Sambe is gonna have to help me with this. There is the Nigerian Psychological Association, and there's one more that I'm missing. Bimpe, which one is the one I'm missing?
And there's Nigerian Psychological Association. There's Counseling Association of Nigeria, and there is Nigerian Association of Clinical Psychologists.
Yeah. Thank you. So those we invited all three. And also what I also found out is the membership cuts across. So you might be in Nigerian Psychological Association and also be part of CASAN, I think.
Yes, please.
It is.
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
So we have these associations. However, there's no however. So each person should be represented from them. The psychiatrist also will be represented. The coaches will be represented. We need people from the UK, from the US, so that all of us in diaspora and those of them here are working together towards this awareness and trauma reduction. Awareness and trauma reduction.
Sorry, my prof, sorry, may I add that maybe we should not lose sight of Diaspora Commission. Diaspora Commission to assist in exploring the diaspora opportunities. And maybe by way of gender sensitivity, you may speak with Honorable Abike Dabiri-Eriwa to get interested in this kind of program.
What's the name again?
Thank you. Honorable Abike Dabiri-Eriwa. She's the chairperson for Nigerian Diaspora Commission.
Nigeria Diaspora
Commission.
Wow, so
she used to be a member of the
Nigerian Diaspora Commission. What do they do? What's their job?
Yeah, House of Rep. She used to be, getting involved in various diaspora activities from complaint to celebration.
Excellent.
Yeah, thank you. I just felt maybe I should add that.
Oh, that's how do you, Dabiri?
Dabiri is DABIROI hyphen Erewa, EREWA. And I'm sure you should be familiar to how to spell Abike.
Yes, now.
Okay,
in fact, I would have gotten that Dabiri. It's Abike now, ABIKA, KE.
KE, yes.
KE. Are you guys listening to this? Abi Oloyede is here on here. Kemi Oyeshola, you guys, that diaspora people. And Mrs. Grace, there's actually a diaspora commission. So let's get in touch with that. Let's get in touch with the lady and see and tell her the vision of this. Thank you so much for that information.
Can I say something, Professor?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. When you ask questions, that's who are people that can be part of this. I want to say the social workers. Have you really mentioned them? Hello.
I think I identified them in the stakeholders list.
Yeah. Social workers for us here in England, social workers are our reference point. They are the one that will do and then signpost to psychologists, to psychiatrists, to other people. But I don't know how, because in Nigeria, I think the NGOs have taken the role of social workers, which I don't think it's actually, that's actually right. For it to be properly structured, I think social worker will be a kind of reference point for them to signpost a lot of things, a lot of anything that is really concerning in Nigeria. So social workers has to be part of this, because I mean, they can do the analysis, then signpost to people who are, I'm just using the model that we use here in England.
Let me come in here, please. Hello, am I?
Yes, Dr. Adebowale, go ahead, please.
Yes, in Nigeria, mental health professional recognized mental health professional, talk about psychiatrists, the clinical psychologists. We know we have other psychologists, I mean, just as you mentioned earlier, occupational, whatever, and not other educational, not, but the clinical psychologists, and then nurses, very important. We have mental health nurses, social workers, we have psychiatric social workers, and there are many. And it's a field that is really robust, really. Just as you said, they've not been taken over by NGO. I mean, in my hospital, for instance, I mean, we have social workers and they are very useful and they are really of a great utility. So, and then we also have occupational therapists. I'm talking about the recognized mental health professionals in this country. I mean, if you go to any mental health service, I mean, these are the people you find, the doctors, the nurses, the psychologists, the social workers, the occupational therapists, you know, those are the standard, which, I mean, so we should not leave out, I mean, social workers, no, you cannot leave out nurses. The mental, in fact, the number of mental health nurses in Nigeria is really doubles even doctors and psychologists. Absolutely. So yeah, we have that number. So, and then, yes, I also want to comment on we also need to talk about practice regulations. Yes, all these that I've mentioned, their practices are regulated by, you know, by bodies, you know, including psychologists. Mm-hmm. Just, I mean, but yes, the dimension of the coaches. Yes, yesterday I heard about the coaches talking. Now I was wondering which we've not really, I mean, related with this group before now, and I wonder under which professional group would say they belong, and then their practice regulation too is, as you said, mental health trauma, even the counselor, yes, the guidance counselors, because even during some of our program, we did some school-based programs, and we were actually giving some training to guidance counselors. These are like teachers, really. They work in schools. But for the school-based program, we invited them, the one in Ogun State, and we began to really train them on the MHGAP, intervention guide on how to apply this to clinical conditions. And it was a very useful event also as part of the primary care program. So the guidance counselors, especially when it has to do with schools and all that, so those should also be involved. I believe their own practice too is well regulated. But as for the coaches, I want to be educated on where do they really belong and who regulates their practices. We need to be careful on this. So because anybody, I mean, we have motivational speakers and motivators, anybody can be anything. But I want to be enlightened on who are these mental health coaches, and what are their qualifications and who regulate their practices, just for my own education. Thank you.
Yeah. Do we have anyone on here from Nigerian, what's the name called? Nigerian Life Coaches of Nigeria. Do we have anyone on
Life
on
Coach?
this one?
Life Coach Association of Nigeria. Unfortunately, the two representatives I spoke to, three representatives I spoke to, all have trainings at this minute. They're currently administering training, so they're not able to join us as of yet. Yes.
However,
so hopefully when they do, we can throw these questions at them.
Okay. But I can answer that question globally, because this is something that's not just a Nigerian phenomenon. It is literally globally. When coaching first started, they weren't being regulated by anybody. So, but in the past 5 years, there are organizations, there are associations, coaching associations that have metrics in order for you to, if you do ABC, blah blah blah, you can then be a member of that. That's when you come into membership. However, it's not like they tell them when you become a life coach, they will tell Kemi says she wants to answer that question too. They will tell you that you're not a mental health coach. That's no matter where you go. Any life coaching organization will tell you, do not practice beyond your scope of practice. They will tell you. But because we have a dearth in terms of professionals in mental health in all countries. It's not just in the United States, because we had to deal with this too. As a commissioner in California, we've had to deal with this. And one of the things that we then said was, we would conduct this training. Our mental health department for each county, we started conducting trainings ourselves. We'll go to the police department, we'll go to this department, and coaches were now invited to come do those trainings. And whatever school they graduated from becomes the one that is monitoring their activities in terms of supervision, in terms of that. But after that, there is nothing. There's nothing. But Coach K wants to answer that question. And that is the concern, that people can practice outside of their scope and sometimes do harm, which is why I said training. 2 years ago when I came to Nigeria, 3 years ago, I can't remember. What happened was I talked to they were calling themselves mental health specialists. They were saying mental health specialists or mental health this. So I'm getting excited that there's all these mental health specialists in Nigeria. So I started digging deeper. I said, so what are your qualifications? And then somebody will say, oh, I took an anger management class. Somebody will say, I took this class. I said, that doesn't qualify you to be a mental health specialist if you just took an anger management class. You have to take a program that actually tells you, you have to know what theoretical foundations are. You have to know what ethics is. You have to know what culture is. You have to know that there's so many things you have to know, so that we're not just sending people out there who are uneducated in mental health. And so, which is one of the reasons why we actually started JARS education, because our programs, we do trauma programs, for example. And in our trauma programs, the way we formulated it now is that you would go through theories, you go to all of those things that I've talked to you about, and then we have supervision, so that at least I can be satisfied that the people we're sending out there are not going to re-wound or re-traumatize their clients. But it is the reality of our day right now that we just don't have enough specialists. We're going to need coaches. In fact, we're going to need beyond coaches. There's a country, I can't remember which one it is now, who is using grandmothers. They train grandmothers in mental health 101, and the grandmothers identify depression. They can identify basic. I have my niece with me right now, and that's that sound you're hearing. That's when you work at home, that's what happens. So what then happens is we have to use who we have. So I am for that we should have everybody under this umbrella and even some more. So Coach K wants to say something. Let's
thank you. Just shortly before she comes in, can I just say that I want to congratulate you for creating the understanding of boundary. More often than not, because of the attitude of not supervising and not regulating, people are just doing things beyond their capacity, thus causing more harm than good. All these things we need to look at. What are the qualifications, basic exposure, limitations, ethical issues, just like you have mentioned, absolutely, knowing boundaries as to when to refer and all of this. They are really key to fundamental training of professionals. I think that should be emphasized. Thank you, ma. I congratulate you, ma. Yeah.
Thank you
so
so much.
Permit me to also put in a word here. So I'm sorry for interrupting. Yes. When we talk about task shifting, in fact, even we have traditional birth attendants, even in OBG, OBGY. Yes, they recognize and they are trained and certified, and they are given limits of what they can do and when to refer. That's the principle of primary health care, using appropriate technology, what is available at our level of development. I'm a student of primary care, and I so sounded appropriate technology, whatever, using even village health workers to do works, but then under whose supervision, who carries the responsibility, who is accountable. I know some of the people we train to carry out mental health services. We have what we call them now, not nurses now, community extension workers and all that, at the primary care level. After training them, we certify them, and then we began to provide what we call support and supervision. We don't call it monitoring and whatever, no, support and supervision to make sure they continue to do what we train them to do, manualized, and then we check on what they do. Supervisors will go there and say, how many cases did you see? How did you assess? What was your intervention, including prescribing medication? But these are done with support and supervision. So that's really where we see, yes, there's room to bring, especially when there's death of professionals. You task shift, but you who have trained have the responsibility and you are accountable. Sometimes I remember when I will receive call from any of the PhD and say, wow, there was one client we saw had a baby and had a defect and all that. I will say, what did you do? Did you make sure? Some of these regulations are there, which we must. So there's the regulation aspect of anything that involves health. And we should not take that for granted, please. Yeah, even as many as we're going to bring in, the training must be structured, and then there must be certification, and there must be support and supervision with responsibilities and accountability for whatever task anybody is going to carry out. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember teaching. I used to be. Before I went to higher education and got my professorship, a K through 12 teacher. And as that would be, whatever the equivalent is. But I remember that my students would be coming to me and telling me their problems and me, trying to solve their problem. But even though I could do it, I still had to go to school to get, to get a certification. So I think that the more we talk about certification and supervision, and at some point, I think people will begin to hear it. But I wish the coaches were here. Dr. Kemi Oyeshola is a doctoral student and she's also a coach. Let's hear what she has to say. Kemi, go ahead.
Thank you. I understand the concern about supervision, training. When I certified as a Gold coach and NLP practitioner, one of the things that had to happen was we had to do the practice in the coaching, at least the group that I worked with, that I went to certify with. We had to read 10 books, for example, and it was a 10-month program. We had to coach people and we had paperwork we had to come back with. Whether we charged them or not was irrelevant. We had to use the tools that were shared with us. I did not know that there are people called mental health coaches. Most coaches coach in areas, what I understand, both in the UK and Nigeria, coach in areas where they have experienced things. So they've been through it. In my case, I've experienced suicide. I went through that, not somebody else being suicidal. I was suicidal. I've experienced trying to kill somebody. I've experienced abuse, and I got out of it without medical help of any sort. And I wasn't doing woo-woo stuff either. I didn't go and pray. But I studied. I'm a Christian, so that was definitely a part of it. But I didn't go over the edge. I got wise, and the more I studied, the more I read, oh gosh, this is what to do. And I saw people suffering the same thing I've been through, but because I know what to call it. And so I don't know if there's any other thought transformation coach globally. I know I'm the one who calls myself that, because it was my thinking that got me to the places I just shared with you. Stinking thinking, that's what I call it. And so that's what I do. I don't do mental health, but of course, it connects with your thinking, connects with your mental health. Mental state, that is your mind state, that's where thinking occurs. And it's all, as far as I can see, it's pretty much you're thinking. So that's what I do. However, I don't call myself a mental health coach. Now, in the UK, there's something called the ICF, the International Coaching Federation. So in the UK, there is no standard, no policy, like Dr. Merino said. Globally, there is no, this is the way it should be done. If it's not done that way, you can't do it. And I think that's because it's so wide. It's really wide. There are people who coach in how to create a course and make it go viral. I mean, that is coaching. People coach, and the word coaching comes from the coach on the field, in the football field. Do this. Do it this way, kick it here. No, go and rest. Eat this. No, don't eat that. That's what it is. That's what coaching is. So if you've been, usually is when you ask any coach, except they're just taking people's money, and I know there are some, majority of us are coaching in what we have experienced, what we have been through. And the longer we coach, I'll just end with this, the longer we coach, the more experiences we have, and the more feathers we add to our caps that, wow, I know how to do this. And lastly, the more clients we work with, the more we learn, just like a doctor. Just because you've been through 10 years of medical school does not mean you know everything. But the longer you are there, the more you learn, the sharper you are. So what I think needs to happen is we need to look for coaches who have been in the field for 10 years or more. They can oversee other coaches. We can begin to create some kind of policy. I'm going to contact Mr. Ohai, Nahuru Ohai, and see how he does his, because I was already interested in doing that when I came into the country. But I think, yeah, there needs to be some kind of directive, some kind of supervision, just so that we are all kind of working on the same line. I think that's key. But I think we should be a part of this consortium without fail. That might be a way to start it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Thank you for that conversation. But Coach K, you also did take the trauma training, which also brought some light into some areas of your coaching, correct?
I did, because many people have been through trauma. You can say what I've been through was traumatic, but because I didn't see it as trauma, I've always seen trauma as something like really far-fetched, like, oh, you've gone off your head. But because I didn't respond or react like that, but people coming to me have been through very traumatic. I could list at least 10, and I helped them. I was able to help them come out of it, but without the trauma training. Now that I've been on it and I'm certified, I understand more things at a deeper level. So there might be words I will not use now that I would have used before, albeit they were fine. They didn't get re-traumatized, but there are better words. So the more you learn, the more you study, the better you are able to deliver. It's Absolutely. A service, like we said. It's important we deliver effective service. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for that. The concern, who was trying to speak?
It was me. I wanted to make a point for the coaches. They're not around, but there was an interview that I did with quite a few of them when I was in Abuja that brought some insight into their organization and the starting of it that I may lend to the conversation where coaching is at in Nigeria at the moment. So once you're done.
Okay, so can you add it?
Okay, so at the end of the day, the reason why the Life Coaching Association of Nigeria was founded by the likes of Lanre Olushola, and the ones who have gone before is on this issue of supervision, on this issue of supervision, having a sort of, having a sort of organization where they can come in and they can know that, okay, if you're part of this organization, then your practice must follow certain rules, certain principles, certain basic foundations must be present in your organization. To a very large extent, they encourage their coaches now, according to the International Coaching Federation guidelines, which you have mentioned, which is that you are not a therapist. Do not go beyond your scope, as it were. So that means you must present a Rolodex in your Rolodex of professionals that you can readily refer to. So at the top, for people who are a part of that organization and who are sort of mentored by those, above in the organization, they are gradually bringing that knowledge downwards, and of course, the reality, which we all know is this, like you rightly said, the numbers are way beyond ridiculous, right? So that means that these people, the coaches, like Coach K has said, they're the ones at the front line. They're the ones people would readily see. Someone working in an office with a tie would not readily go to a psychiatrist because the first thing is because of the stigma, but would readily go to an executive coach to have their life put together. It's until they get to the coach that the coach now needs to realize that, oh, it's because of trauma here. It's because of this that you've gone through. Okay, we can put this in, we can put that in. But then again, that's why we're having this kind of conversations today, that even at the coaching level, especially in Nigeria, we need to implement the basic mental health foundations as well. Because, just how many people would you refer to? How many people can Yaba take? How many people can Arrow take? Which was why when we approached them for this, they were so excited on board. They presented like 3 speakers. Fortunately, because of time and all that, they couldn't make it today. But those were the conversations that we've been having. There needs for us, for each and everybody to be retrained, to be aware. And then there was something you mentioned yesterday that was reiterated back to me, which was that the need for interdisciplinary teams. It is critical, and it is important. And I want to believe that at the end of today, we'll be able to at least put up one for Nigeria. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So I think that the consensus, if I'm hearing everybody right, and if everybody is it seems like everybody's on the same page. Look, everyone wants the same thing. Now, here is what I'm a psychologist. I can probably practice in a whole bunch of areas, but there is a focus that you have, and you get trained in that area. You can even get beyond. That's where when you do your internship, when you do all of those, you make sure you focus in certain areas. My expertise in family psychology. Now, but what then happens is this: we all, in our own little areas, we have how do I say it? We have our little silos. We are, and we want to protect it, And what I because I also, when I have master level students and PhD level students, and what we tell them when they're going out is that we are the gatekeepers. That when I was the director of clinical training, I used to tell them, I'm a gatekeeper. What that means is I can't just let anybody into this. You have to prove yourself to have gone through the rigors of this program, blah, 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 so that you do not do no harm, like we've been talking about forever. However, the reality is the reality. The reality is there's not a lot of us on ground, and so because there's not a lot of us on ground, we have to make sure that maybe we take that gatekeeping and open up a little bit so that we can embrace the coaches, because sometimes they feel as if the academics, like, the ones with the doctorates and the this, they sidelined up. If we open up a bit, maybe they'll be more receptive to what we're saying. And, the more receptive, we're not trying to put your thumb on the scale. You're trying to say, look, these people that you're coaching, no matter what, if you're calling yourself a life coach and somebody's coming to you to, like Coach K, she does, what is it, executive coaching? I think, am I correct, Coach K, executive coaching?
Yes,
Coach
yes,
women.
you're right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So executive coaching. So if you're an executive coach, for example, sometimes there is other mental health stuff that's going on. It's not that they just can't get a promotion. There's other things going on. Just for you to be able to identify that is important. So I think the more, and I really wish they were on here. I wish the president was on here for the life coaches. We're going to send him this video so he can look at it, because we want them on board. And if Abioloye said, it will be a good idea to add trauma training to the coaches module and create an awareness amongst church leaders as well. I think so. Are we all in agreement with what we've said so far? Dr. Adebowale, Dr. Sambe, and Dr. Adesanya, I want to call on you first, because you're the ones that bring in this particular up.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We are on course. I think we are doing well. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
We appreciate you.
Dr. Adebowale.
Yes, I read somebody said there's the Institute of Counseling. If that is, and I just checked on Google, and I actually saw it's there. I would say that should be the minimum, that anybody that wants to go through, I mean, this is, yes, you may have the experience to help people, but by the time you now put yourself out to say people should come to you, that's why we have the concept of nations and organizations. Things must be controlled. Yes, I can be, even when I counsel in the church, even though I'm a psychiatrist, if I counsel in my church, if I'm a member of a counseling group in the church, because they recognize my areas of expertise and they place me there. But what I'm doing there, I'm not doing it really in the name of my profession. I'm doing it in the name of my church group, because I may even be using scriptures to counsel people and all that. So that's a form of regulation, that I'm doing this. And anybody who comes to me know that, we are seeing Brother Adebowale now, not really Dr. Adebowale, you understand? So things must be regulated. So if there's the Institute of Counseling, I would say that should be the minimum, that anybody that wants to involve with coaching is about counseling people. So if that is available as a body in this country, as a regulatory, a training and regulatory institution for people who want to counsel people, either as students or other as people who have one condition, emotional issue or the other. Yeah, I think we should have a basic minimum where people should, I don't know what they organize, maybe certificate courses or
sorry,
diplomas.
Dr. Adebowale. Sorry, Dr. Adebowale. Counseling shouldn't be done by just anybody. It is a specialty within the purview, within the purview of a division of psychology, and it is offered in institutions at the universities in Nigeria. And it is not a 3-year, 2-year program. It is a full 5-year program with internship and nothing less than a master's degree before you can practice or be so addressed as and registered as a member of the Counseling Association of Nigeria. One can only be registered as an associate if one is having anything in training or student membership. So I think we need to get it right at this stage.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So it's not the same thing, Dr. Adebowale. You're talking about counselors. We're talking about coaches. The coaches, they're not counselors. They are coaching. But do you not agree that every single person who is involved in this space should have at least some basic training in trauma, in mental health, so that they can use it in their coaching? They never said that they were counselors.
I'm only adding that when I saw that there is an institute of counseling or whatever, I saw somebody posted that. That's what I'm talking about. If that is true, there's an institute of counseling or whatever in Nigeria. Apart from, yes, I as a psychiatrist, I understand issues about psychology and all that. So I'm saying if there's an institute, maybe a basic minimum of institute, I don't know, it should be recognized. I don't know, maybe the person should tell us more about that institute and what
sorry, Dr. Adebowale again. I am shocked learning about that institute too, as a professional counselor. Okay.
Okay.
So I was going to ask question too about that. When even the Counseling Association of Nigeria is still struggling to push to get a bill. When even the Nigerian Psychological Association, the psychological bill is just being on the presidential desk. And over 40 years of continuous training of psychologists in Nigeria, we just have psychology be on the scheme of service of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, but not operational yet. So I'm just stunned. I was going to ask, maybe seizing this moment, to say the person who knows about the Institute of Counseling should be generous to let us know the full address of the institute, so that we can see how to forge a relationship or whatever. How to forge a relationship.
Okay. Can I come here, please?
Okay, go.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, go.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Yes, okay, so the Institute of Counseling in Nigeria, yes, it's a counseling institute that's established like 3-4 years ago. Yes, it's a major is to help reach out as parents, right? And then train them on how to know basic mental health issues and able to help people. Basically, I ran a course there last year, certificate in counseling, right? And diploma in child and adolescent counseling. Yeah, so you don't really need to have a foreknowledge of counseling. And basically, I think it's a first aid group, right? And you could also go to develop yourself in other areas. I, for myself, I'm personally running a master's in guidance and counseling yet. So, but it's located there. Let me give us the address at the number 10, Somobi Street in Ikoyi. Yes, the founder is Dr. Tolu Iko Gary. Yes, I think that's her name. Yeah, so and we have been supervised by senior colleagues, counselors, yes, and the Association of Counselors, Matchmaker, Psychotherapy of Nigeria. Hello? I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so they run basic, they have short courses and long courses also. Okay, so we have certificate in counseling, as I said that, advanced certificate in counseling. We have diplomas in child and adolescent counseling, in marriage, relationship, and marriage, family, and relationship. Also, grief counseling. It's a diploma course, right? So it's not really a degree. It's not a degree. It's not a master's program. Also, so basically, it's just before assistant gives you. Yeah.
Okay. So I think I know what we're talking about. Like in the what we have. So we have Jars Education Institute, for example, is a continuing education institute. So you come in there, I even tell counselors and psychologists, please mute yourself. So I tell counselors, even because we run a lot of trauma programs. I even tell my PhD students to come back and take it, those continuing education courses, because it helps you understand a particular framework or particular angle in counseling or in therapy. So these schools are just as needed as the ones with their masters and this. So we have to be clear when we name schools and what they're about. If you're not offering diploma, if you're not offering undergrad, masters, and diplomas for any of those, we shouldn't be calling them particular things. It is a continue, from what you have said to me, it looks like it's a continuing education kind of school, and those are also needed. Look, the one thing I'm just trying to say is, I know how we try to protect ourselves. Look, I understand, all right, how everybody's trying to protect their own things, which is good, because at the end of the day, we have to be trained. But all of these schools are needed. This school, the title of the name of the school is confusing because it makes it look as if it is like a University of Ibadan kind of thing or University of Lagos kind of thing. So
you got it right, my prof.
Yeah. So that's the challenge there. We just have to be. We need to. Look. You have to present ethically to the public, and so that there is no misinterpretation, misinformation about what you're doing. We have to clarify it. Dr. Bolaji Adesanya has his hand up. Miss Grace Alexander has had her hand up for a while. I don't know if you have your hand up to speak or if that's an accident, Mrs. Alexander.
Don't let us don't let us forget Dr. Adebowale, who was on the floor before we were contributing. Okay.
Oh, okay. And Dr. Adebowale, I'll call you later in a minute. But Dr. Grace, Mrs. Grace, are you there?
Yes, I am there. I just want to say that apart from this monitoring, I just want to add something that obviously there are some associations in Nigeria that has to be monitored. There are some that has to be monitored for ethical reasons. And one should have a clear understanding, because some people just join courses not actually knowing the benefits and not actually knowing whether it is something that is monitored or something that is, or the motive is just to collect money. You understand what I mean? And I will say, yes, to collect. So what's the motive? Are the people going to do that course, do they really understand the implication of what they are studying? And I quite agree with the fact that for instance, with what you are doing, like the trauma-informed formed courses you are doing, JAS is an education center. It is not like where you can do capacity building. So the part of it is that your responsibility as a professional is to continue to learn, and that can be through capacity building. And don't let us forget that some people don't realize that people with disability are most at risk when it comes to all these issues. So disability issues should be taken into consideration, because it can be traumatic just having a child with disability. It can be traumatic getting disability at your later age, maybe when you are 30, when you are 40, it can be traumatic, even realizing that you cannot do things like your mates are doing. So don't let us forget the fact that disability is actually, with disability, poverty, and mental health, they are intertwined. And that is really, really key. So that's just what I want to add.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Then it was, where is he? Okay, Dr. Adebowale, did you finish what you were going to say?
Yes. The essence of what I'm just saying, the point which my psychologist friend is supporting me. Sorry, I didn't get the name of Professor of Psychology. What's the name, please?
Dr. Sambe?
Dr. Sambe, okay, yes. He's backing me very well.
Sambe is the name. Sambe, not Sambe.
Sambe.
Yeah,
Dr.
yeah,
Sambe. I will not forget that one now.
So Dr.
I hope
really,
you know getting names right is psychotherapeutic.
That is true. That is true.
Sure.
We should have asked for the pronunciation. Sambe. Thank you.
So Dr. Sambe, thank you for backing me up. The issue is to prevent harm. When you leave something, a practice out for any, even traditional healers now are regulated. You know, even in here, they have the traditional practice, something board now, and to make sure things are done according to rules, that nobody just go out to, because we're talking about the public. So I think that's really the point I'm making, that I'm never afraid about task shifting. I mean, I'm an advocate of primary care, where we use appropriate technology depending on our level of development. As I mentioned yesterday, I've been to parts of Africa. They have dearth of mental health professionals, yet mental health services being delivered using the appropriate technology of training village health workers, chiefs and religious people, and the mental health of the people are taken care of. So I mean, there is no doubt about, but nevertheless, it must be regulated. Whoever is training must take responsibility to. Yes, thank you. It's all right.
Point taken. So we regulation. Dr. Balaji Adesanya, please, you may speak, please.
All right. Thank you very much for having me, and thank you for what has been said so far. I also want to lend my voice to what Dr. Adebowale, one of my guys anyway, I said, and Dr. Sambe, my senior colleague as well. Actually, I just want us to know that, in most cases, most of our service users, they do not know the right people to see. And then I think there should be a kind of advocacy and the knowledge for people to know who you need to see at a particular time, because especially in Nigeria, a lot of charlatans, which I've sent a kind of chat to you to read that. We have a lot of people who do not have the capacity or the training to offer a service, but they claim to be, okay, this is what we can offer. So I want to believe that a part of what we need to also look at is how we can make the public to know who to see, at what point you need to continue seeing this person, and when you know that you can, maybe you need to see another person after you have done whatever you have to do with this person, so that people will not be like we have been saying, to protect human beings, to protect them against any psychological harm. And then that's what I just want to add to what we have been saying so far. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So in California, psychologists cannot prescribe medication. In New York, psychologists can prescribe medication after you've gone through some other courses, some other programs. So I want to talk about, staying in your lane. So I get to Nigeria, for example, and you want to prescribe not Nigeria, anywhere. So if a client is with you and you know that this client is in distress and they need to go see a psychiatrist, what do you do? you send them to the psychiatrist. Does that make sense? You send them to the psychiatrist. So this is what we're saying. So
Yes.
I agree with everything that you're saying. I agree with it. But at the same time, I think we don't want to shut people up, and we want to make sure that they're there. But then we can talk to them about this regulation. But good luck with that, though. I don't know how we're going to do the regulation, because it's not just a Nigerian issue. This is global for coaching. It's almost like a free-for-all. You can be any kind of coach. It's out there. You can use coach, and the upper variable service. And well, in mental health, we have to see Dr. Adebowale, Dr. Sambi, and Dr. Who just spoke, Dr. Adesonia. Sambe, we need to make sure. Sambe, you're muted, Dr. Sambe. Sambe. What does it mean, Dr. Sambe?
Adopted. It means someone who is prepared, always handy and kitted with knives.
Oh.
As in Sambe Sunfaporori.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, always ready.
Oh my God.
All right, I learned something today. Abioloye there has a hand up. Go ahead. Guys, we have to move away from this in a minute. We have other things before we round up so that we don't spend all day. Go ahead, Abby.
Yeah, I just want to thank you very much for this platform, Prof. I want to maybe encourage the psychologists and everyone that's talking that, honestly speaking, the millennials and also the younger generation are asking for certification. They're asking who you are and what you know. And so maybe that would bring some calmness. Well, maybe calmness is not well. Maybe that would kind of
reassurance.
Yes, reassure a lot of the professors and the doctors on this platform that, honestly speaking, people are becoming certified. I'm a pastor, and I can tell you now that quite a number of my pastor friends are actually studying diploma in psychology, diploma in counseling. We are very, very much aware that we need to be able to balance what we're preaching with some skills that are certified. So I just thought to encourage that conversation. And also, in the UK, because of the impact of COVID, the government actually are rolling out a 3-hour psychological first aid training for parents, guardians, and everyone, so that we can actually be armed with the right tools, the first aid tools, to be able to know if anything is happening because of the impact of COVID. I really hope, and I think I heard one of the doctors saying that in some of the villages, the chiefs and religious leaders are being equipped. So we're on the right. I believe the whole care of the soul is on the right path. And thank you so much for what you're doing, and thanks for encouraging people like us to actually be more equipped. Like Coach Kemi was saying, my interest stemmed from my own personal experience with thought intrusions before I knew what it was, and I was able to handle it without any form of aid, because I didn't even know who to go to. This was in the 80s, but with time, with my own, I've read so much so that eventually I just thought, you know what, I think I need to go and get certification so that I can help more people, especially as a leader. But the summary of my conversation is just to encourage us that people are getting certified, pastors are becoming aware, and church members also are asking questions. So I hope that would encourage you. Thank you. And yes, I've been through Prof's trauma integrated training myself.
And supervision.
Yeah. And supervision, yes.
Plus supervision, yeah.
And supervision, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I think the one of the things that you said was awareness. If we look at this mental health 101 courses, trauma 3-hour courses, that as awareness for people. So maybe that would shift the conversation a little bit. Well, so when the coaches take these courses, or the obas, or the whatevers, or the grandmothers, or whatever, whoever they're taking those courses, the basic expectation is awareness. So you know what is coming, who is coming to you, so you're aware of what's happening. But at the same time, I understand what everybody's saying, because some people practice outside of their scope, and it actually does harm more than good. But there's a lot of good out there, and I hope at some point we have a consensus. But regulation is on the list, and let's move forward after that, please, so that we can finish. And that took a long time. So that must be that. I didn't expect that to take so long. Well, actually, I kind of did, but wow. Let me pull up where I am, which I can, if I can find it. Are you guys here? So trainings is where we got stuck, but it was a good conversation that needed to be had, and we should move on with it. Where am I from? Current slide. Now, this is what I'm so eager to talk about. If I alluded to it yesterday, innovation. Trust me, WHO has a whole platform on this. I think there's about 5,000 of them right now. Innovation. We, in our department of, each county has a behavioral health department. Okay, well, they're actually, innovation departments, like that's all they do. Innovation. They think of ideas, because that's what's been funded mostly. That's what's been funded. So it has to be bold, it has to be dramatic, and it has to have lasting change. So let's start thinking outside the box. What we've talked about today is basic rudimentary expectation. Nobody's going to fund what's saying that there should be regulation. You should have regulations. Nobody's going to fund that primary, except implemented in primary health centers, except it is new to your state, it is new to your community, and how you're going to do it has to have something a little bit different. It's USAID is really interested in those things. And so there's grants available for Africa as we speak for mental health, both in WHO and in USAID. But I want to know, what is your innovation and solution? And this is some of the questions from a recent application. Please clearly describe the theory of change and cite the evidence linking your innovation to its intended impact. What does your innovation or solution impact? And it goes on and on. What has been achieved to date, and how many people does your innovation or solution currently serve? What specific social outcomes do you expect your innovation to achieve over the next 5 years? Clearly state what might make your innovation or solution better, more cost-effective, or more appealing than alternatives. How will your innovation scale or be funded sustainably? What evaluation method will you use to measure the success of your innovation? And what relevant metrics, performance indicators, KPIs, will you use to track your innovation performance, and how do you collect the data? I took the time to say all of this because this consortium that we're trying to put together, we need funding for it. We're going to need money. Which means, because everything we're talking about, awareness, regulation, all of this, we can't, our government only provides 3.3% of the budget to mental health, and 90% of that goes to the psychiatric hospitals. I don't know what happens to the other 10. Maybe Dr. Adebowale can tell me. I don't know, and Dr. Sambe can tell me. I don't know what happens to the other 10%, but either way, it's not enough. So we need monies from international bodies to help us with this. But something new has to happen. One of the new things that I am proposing is to have this consortium of all the players. So first of all, that is new. So we're gonna have all of us there. That's one. And secondly, how do we integrate and how do we bring awareness in a way that is fun in a way that people know what mental health is, so that we can get some funding. One of the proposals was exactly what Dr. Abdewale said they did in Ogun State. One of the proposals was to use technology in training, using technology in training. So get all the trauma trainings. I was involved in this particular grant. Use the technology training, and put the training on technology for nurses. And there's a name, like, you guys help me out. There's a name. Who are the nurses who in the communities? What are they called? The ones that are not in the hospitals but in the community centers. What are they called?
Community health workers.
What?
Community health workers.
Is it the community health workers?
Yes.
Training that particular population in mental health 101 and trauma courses. But it would be, the way we're going to do that is put it on, you don't have to go there. It would just be like you're downloading a course or whatever, and they can do it on their iPhones, they can do it on the Androids or whatever. And that will be that. But there's a lot of innovative ideas. So I want that to be something that we are all, we want to talk about. Like, what can we do that is different? What can we do? How can we bring mental health to this country in a way that is, you have to, and when you want to be innovative, one of the things I learned is that you have to forget your boundary. So you have to kind of get out of your box a little bit. And this is why I said, everything we do, we need some young people in here, because they can think it, they can tell you what they've been thinking. Dr. Adebowale posted something, innovations, primary healthcare, arrow. Okay, thank you. And what is that, Dr. Adebowale? Is that for the primary care physicians training? Is that what that was?
That's the, if you follow that link, you see the whole program of the training of the primary care.
Absolutely. So what I'm even saying is beyond the primary care. I'm talking about training training the community centers, training other groups, maybe even the coaches, whatever it is that we do, we have to train people. How do we reduce stigma? That's another thing, another campaign of reducing stigma. So those are innovative thoughts that need to come out, that we need to start thinking beyond whatever scope we're in right now, that is inclusive of everybody. Does that make sense, guys, what I'm saying?
Yes, it makes sense. And I think, this is Kemi speaking, I think the idea of innovation is what is going to help us remove the stigma. We have come at removing the stigma in the same way for year after year after, there's nothing wrong with it, just go to the hospital and all that. Or don't tell, there's somebody that died about 2 years ago, and I asked why, and they were told that they were not allowed to talk about it. And I don't know what it was. It was normal, it was okay. I still today, I don't know what it was. But I think coming at it with an innovative idea, which is one of the things I teach. Innovation is using what is there to create something that did not exist. It doesn't mean you're not recreating anything. You're just using what you have to do something new, which is what everybody is doing every day. So I think that in that direction, if we think that way, I'm sure we'll come up with something different, which is why we need everyone around the table, because just a few of us can't do this with our specific expertise. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. Anyone else that has anything else to say about innovation? Oh, come on, be innovative.
I think it is about getting down. Remember, I spoke on stakeholders from start to finish.
Yes.
And obviously, I mentioned the issue of students, children, parents, and whatever. To that extent, it won't be out of place to get to secondary school, primary schools, to get the view of these young minds as to what are they thinking, or what is their thought about mental illness And so how can it be corrected? You'll be surprised at the gamut of data that we are likely to get. And based on this, we can now maybe through meta-analysis or whatever way to get to the bottom of it. Just like she mentioned about us sitting around may not be able to get the whole solutions, but we have to start from somewhere. That is my own approach. I don't believe in numbers that are unwieldy and unproductive. I believe in whatever we can do, let's start doing something. Then others may join, So that's the way I am thinking, rather than just looking at community health, this faith-based, all these things are still working within the framework of the box. But with the way we are looking at things, we want to see things outside the box. So that's my view. Thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely. So the story, you're so correct in that we outside of the box, and it sometimes is a struggle to get outside the box, but we need without walls. We need to get out of the walls. And look, when in my daughter's school, when she was in high school, they had 5 deaths, 5 suicides within a week in the different high schools that were close by. So you can imagine how traumatizing that would be. So 4 died in so in my area, there's 4 high schools. So in each one of them, 1 child killed themselves in the school, and then 1 in the middle school. So we had 5 deaths in 1 week. And so what then happened is there's trauma. There's trauma, and people are going to service these children and all of that. So I said, look, what is the problem? Do you guys not, what is the problem? Like, why aren't you guys responsive to the regular, go sit in front of somebody and talk and all of these things? And my kids and their friends said, look, we're talking about mental health. We're just not talking about it to our parents. We're not talking about it we're talking about it on Twitter. We're talking about it online. That they're using technology to talk about this. And so if we want to get them, we can't stay in our offices. We have to get where they are. So these are some of the things we need to start thinking. So I'm so glad you brought that up. We need to get rid of the box, and get out to where the problem is. How about those in Ajegunle? How about those in all those places that will never come to an office? They will never. I had somebody call me from Nigeria, not even somebody. I get calls all the time because my name is out there. And she's telling me about her medication. She's telling me about her medication that she's taking, and I was like, don't you have a psychiatrist monitoring you? Oh, I go every once in every 2 months, but I don't have enough money to do it. And so I'm hearing voice. All of this stuff is happening out there, and there's just not enough of us. So innovation is, let's think outside of the box. There will be people.
Again, my prof, just yesterday after the symposium, I got talking with one of my friends, and I said, I have had, when I visited a secondary school, a child who felt very strongly when they were motivated to come to talk with me after the session, that, hey, my father is spending more money supporting friends, family members, more than his immediate family. Mm-hmm. But he hasn't gotten the courage to tell his father that. And I told my friend yesterday that put these small children, our perceived small children, forgetting the fact that in other words, the little child has some sense. We are symbiotically supposed to be relating. Then find out, put this child behind the screen and encourage the child to outpour what are his or our concerns about mental health. You'll be amazed the way the child will just be outpouring, and you just wonder, where is he or she getting all this vocabulary from? It is amazing and it is interesting, and there's a lot of work that needed to be done. There are absentee parents. There are toxic parenting activities going on. There are But unfortunately, more often than not in this part of the world, we want to heap everything on the government. And that is still within the box. So what can individual, community, society, friends and well-wishers do in ameliorating the heavy burden of care of psychiatric or mental illness should be an issue of concern, which is what we are talking about, which is outside the box. This is just what I want to add. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Yes. Check, 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 check. All right. So this is where we're almost done. I think that's it. We have one more slide and then we're done. And then we just have to make a commitment and let's see who is on board. So let me just finish. I think I'm pretty much done, but let's just finish. So we have the grants. I mean, we don't have the grants, but you know what I mean. There's a gap that needs to be bridged. I talked about this yesterday, and that's what we've been talking about. There is a gap, there is a need, there's a gap, and there's a call. I think this call is a call of wellness. I mean, we have to come to the light at some point as a nation. The dirt of professional I don't even know the word to use for this. 500 is what we're talking about, if that. Psychiatrists and psychologists who are practicing, because I have friends who were trained psychiatrists who literally said, I can't do this anymore, I'm going to move away. So what are some big ideas? That's what we're going to look at in the consortium. What are some of the big ideas? What works for the Nigerian audience? In fact, a lot of all of this therapy, sometimes we have to look at it in the context. Oh, okay. Give me one quick second, guys. Hello? Are you there? Are you there?
Yes, we're here.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Can you talk about the African context for a minute, about therapists in the African context? I need to say goodbye to my niece in just one quick second. I'm sorry. Talk about the African context. I need to give her a hug so I can go.
Okay. Wow. Please, who will be willing to help us just initiate that conversation about therapy within the African context, especially those who are practicing therapy in the field at this time?
All right. So thank you, Bims. That's what we want to talk about. So please, who's talking?
That was me. I was about to say something. You said something just
please.
before you left, just for someone answers and being Pace's question. And I'm thinking, how do we, how do we go forward with this? I think since everything rises and falls on leadership, and we keep talking about our government in Nigeria, if the government is that, that's why the country is like that. As we are starting this, I think training, we don't need to gather people. We need to gather ourselves who are talking and get trained ourselves so that we are singing from the hymn book that we are teaching others from. We've got to get it right at the top. So the various aspects of mental health, therapy, psychiatry, psychology, coaching, counseling, we need to get our bits of that in place. So we'll know exactly how they all interact. And then we can ask, okay, now we are setting this up. So let's start from the top before we go out there. I think that's something that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Coach. So when we're talking about, I think I'm also going to come back to that because that's what's going to wrap this up. What Coach Kemi just said. So the African approach to therapy is something that we need to think about when we're talking about big ideas. I'm really big on that because there's some of these therapies we shouldn't lose our culture in the westernized approaches that are out there. Because I mean, look, a good idea was when there was the Native Americans. There was a lot of alcoholism, a lot of addiction that was going on, and it made sense because they had lost their land. their kids were being institutionalized. And so there was a lot of addiction that was happening in that particular community. And none of the approaches we had really worked. You know, they were doing CBT, they were doing existential, they were doing all kinds of stuff with them, but it wasn't working. So until a Native American student was doing her dissertation, and she decided to explore why there was no high rate of recovery in this particular community. And what she found was was astonishing. She said when she did the dissertation, the study, they found out that the Native Americans said everything they were saying was foreign and contrary to their tradition, to their culture. You know, so she said, okay, so what is the culture? What is it that could have done better? And then first of all, Native Americans are spiritual. They're spiritual, and they also are hierarchical in their traditions. So if you were coming into the community, you have to talk to the chief first. You have to talk to the person who was there first. And then they also tell stories, narrative therapy. So they tell stories. So it is from that one girl's dissertation that the whole story, that the whole thing shifted in Native American communities when we started using spirituality, narrative therapy in their culture, and they started finding the help that they needed. So as Africans, we also need to not take mental health. We need to put a round peg in a round hole, and a square peg in a square hole. So we need to take the mental health therapies that we've learned in this westernized community and see how it fits into the African community, so that when we present it, it's not so foreign. So even the language has to change sometimes. So these are some of the things that we have to grapple with as a community of professionals as we move forward. So I just wanted to drop that there. And finally, where do we do? What is the outcome, Dr. Sambe?
Okay. Yes, I should. Thank you very much, my prof. I should like to add that this is the trend in which the psychologists are leaning. And that is why we are thinking of Afrocentric psychologists, understanding the culture of where the psychologist is in practice and relating such culture to the health or ill-health conditions of the members of the community. In other words, you know, the traditional Yoruba will say, or what we commonly say in general population, that one man's meat is another man's poison. The therapy is supposed to be individualized and individual focused, without prejudice to what is the condition that might look universal. For example, if you are talking about schizophrenia, you have certain parameters that are likely to be regarded as being symptoms of schizophrenia. Maybe classic symptoms of hearing voices and seeing things. But in our local, traditional or spiritual community, you still hear some people who will say, someone who is hearing voices about God that we know is unseen and whatever. Some certain individuals who are Eurocentric psychologists will believe that no, there's nothing like that. But somebody who is culturally aware of the dynamics will be able to relate to that. So you are very correct in your perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Woo, Dr. Sambe. Sambe, hey.
Sambe. Just think of a knife.
Very good.
Sambe. Ha, Jesus. Sambe. All right, so that was good. Thank you so much.
Don't go near him.
What did you say?
I are not contesting for anything, Dr. Adebowale.
He's holding,
Let her come near
he's holding
me.
he's holding
Yeah,
a sharp
he's holding
knife.
a sharp knife. Yes, don't go near him.
All right. So
that's part of transcultural mental health. Really, I mean, all this, even understanding the meaning of languages and whatever, even the names of individuals. I've asked to ask, clients, what's the meaning of your name, and things of that nature, and it placed in cultural context, just as you said, what we call the socioplastic aspect of culture. It affects, the European patient, for instance, may talk about, the being persecuted by, some groups and whatever. And then, I've seen clients who, will cover themselves with a blanket. I said, oh, wow, the IRA will bomb me if I remove the jacket. Whereas in Nigeria, to be a witch after me, and then the person who's not socioculturally aware will wonder what he's talking about. I know. So these are some of the aspects which we need to be, he said we should be Afrocentric, but it's really more about being culturally sensitive. I go to deep extent of asking clients, if he says he's gone to a traditional healer, I say, what did the traditional healer do? I mean, he said he had a sacrifice. What type of sacrifice? Was it a cock, or was it a bull? Was it a swine? What was used? He's wondering, what's the business of this doctor? I really want to know. Because by the time he's gone through that, even the symptoms he's presenting with you are just, colored by the various experiences he's had from therapists, and then the thing has been made more complex than what original symptoms he had. These are really aspects of really being culturally aware as a therapist, which I had a lot of experience about, really. Thank you.
Very good.
It's been quite
Very
informative.
good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Dr. Adewale, were you done? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Were you finished?
Yes, I'm done. Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah,
okay.
Thank you.
All right, so here's a proposal. So the proposal is this consortium, okay? In that consortium, everybody is represented that needs to be represented. So the psychologists, the psychiatrists, the commissioners for health, the coaches, the parents, students, and educators. I don't know who else. There's somebody I'm missing.
Pastors. How can you leave out the pastors?
Pastors, imam, pastors.
Exactly.
They need to be part of this consortium. So what we're going to do is, anybody on this forum willing to be a part of that consortium, please let me know, put it in the chat if you're willing, or just tell us you're willing. We will contact you and start the process. The goal of the consortium, I'm glad you asked. The goal of the consortium is to think outside the box, to have innovative ideas that can increase awareness of mental health, that can and increase training of in mental health for Nigeria. Okay, Dr. Sambe said he's ready. Okay, well, okay, yes. And then we can formulate all these measures together when we meet next time. It's going to be a working meeting, but one of the outcomes is also to get money, is to get grants so we can do what we need to do. Grants that will help us do what we need to do, because all of this costs money. We need to get grants, and it is outside of the realm of government, even though we can utilize them, but we're not asking the government, because I don't know, things take so long. Look at the 2020 mental health bill. It's still, it was the 19-something bill, and then it was the 2006 bill, and then now it's the 2020 bill. These things take a long time. So I think that what we can do outside of the government structure is where we want to go, but we want everybody in the boat.
May I ask a question, please? May I ask a question? It's Kemi. You asked if we are willing, and we said, yeah. we should put it in. So I want to ask a few people who have responded. Pastor Abby says she's interested. I would like to know what that means. Is she willing or interested? I would like to know what James Komalafe means by I think I am willing. And somebody else said, I am keen. And the reason I'm saying this is we are going to start something. One of the ways I teach thinking is that number one fundamental is there should be a readiness to do the work, which is the end of thinking. So are we, and I understand we are just getting into it, but is this something you willing, hook, line, and sinker? Now James got me. So he's responded, so yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, thank you, Coach, because I was going to ask that question. Somebody said, I am keen. Are you keen, Mrs. Grace Alexander? What does that mean? Interested, Abby. So yes, I echo what Kemi just said. Can you tell us exactly, are you committed to it? Are you want to find out some more? What is it that you're willing?
Well, I know that quite a number of pastors, I think, I don't know if it was Professor or Dr. Sambe who said it, but I know that...
Show off, Abby, show off, near, show off. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Merino. Thank you, Pastor Abby.
Oh my God! I hope I'll be able to say what I hope I remember what I was about to say. You interrupted my thinking.
Sorry, you know some pastors.
Yeah,
you know
I do.
Some pastors.
Yeah, and I just feel that I in my mind I'm already thinking there are one or two things that can be done to begin to whet the appetite of pastors and recipients as well. For instance, when I was speaking to someone about this program, he said, don't call it mental health. If you do, I won't come. But if you say trauma, I'll be there. So straight away, that goes with what you were saying about the way people would respond to certain things as well. So in my mind, I'm thinking pastors, who may actually be thinking about it, but don't know how to go about it. I could just try my possible best to reach out to them, however we decide we want to get them involved.
Okay, so you're legit, like you're
Yep.
in. Okay. All right. Okay, so we have those that have said yes, and we will move on from there. What else? Who else? Okay, good. Thank you. Any questions? Any clarifications? Bingpe, please take these names down. And also, we're going to add Commissioner Filani is interested. We're going to add Professor Schick. We're going to also add Amina. Commissioner Amina is also interested. Is very interested. So let's add those three names to those who have just committed to this. Adebimpe Oshinuga, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I was trying to unmute. Right in it over there.
All right. So Dr. Adebowale said all participants should be included. No, we can't. So you have to say you're interested, though, because work. This is not work, that we're going to be doing. And so
I will reach out to the coaching community. At least I have a list and number in there that we can reach out to.
And the educator, there was somebody representing education. Reach out to him too. I think it's Akin something.
Yeah, that came from your end.
Oh, okay. So we need to include him too. Okay. All right. Any questions? Any conclusions? We're going to meet again next month.
Oh, how about student body at whatever level?
Please make recommendations. Dr. Sambe, do you know make recommendations from Nigeria, student body presidents, things like that we can recommend?
Okay. The also of Unilag and the LASU Students Union.
Okay, Bims, are you writing this down?
The LASPOTEC, Lagos State Polytechnic Students Union, Yabatech Students Union, Federal College of Education Technical, who will just get into the campuses or through their registrar. All these institutions have their student affairs registrar, And all these students' body are under the Student Affairs Registrar. The faith-based societies of students too, MSS, Scripture Union, and things like that, I think they shouldn't be left out, because mental illness can affect anybody without any out of discrimination. Thank you.
Absolutely. I think we should also reach out to those national bodies of, somebody was on here yesterday from something Pentecostal, a Nigerian Pentecostal something or evangelical association.
I think that was Dr. Komolafe talking about the work he was doing with those organizations in Abuja.
Dr. Komolafe, you're on here. It's been quiet today. Dr. Komolafe, you there? Okay, well, Dr. Komolafe will reach out to you, because I think we should bring that group on too. So very good, very good, very good. I'm so excited. God help us.
I want to say something. I want to say something. I would like to say that it would be good to put a structure to this group in terms of, planning. Is it going to take a year? Is it going to take 2 years, so that we're realistic, our expectations are measured, and we know that we're making things happen, but it can be slow, but we're making progress. And then also it may be good, I know you're good at that, structure in terms of, are we meeting once every 2 months, once a month, so that, like Coach Kemi was saying, if you're in hook, line, and sinker and things like that. That's
Absolutely.
what
Absolutely. So I think that what I was, in my mind, I'm thinking the meeting next month is when we're going to bring all this to the table, because we've already spent about past 2 hours now. So I think if we can commit to at least the first meeting, and in the first meeting, we're going to present a template of mission, vision. Somebody said goals, mission, and vision, that we can all then take that and see how we want to change it. So there's going to be a template, okay, of here's the goals, here's what we want, and then everybody can contribute and kind of manipulate it as we see fit after that. But we will go back, and based on the communication today, Dr. Komolafe raised his hand. Yes, just a minute. Based on what we've done today, we're going to put together a template that we're going to send to all of you, and so when we come back next month, you're going to give us your ideas based on the feedback that you're going to give us your feedback based on the template that we've given to you. Does that make sense? Abby?
Yes, it does. Sorry, I was trying to unmute. Yes, it does. Thanks.
Okay, I think that works. Dr. Komolafe, welcome. Can you tell us about the...
Thank you so very much, Dr. Merino, and everybody in the house for these 2 days. I'd like to say it's been a very robust packaging there, for which, just like you did mention now, we need to create a formidable template that will broaden the base, so that before next meeting, we'll have sent all these basic ideas out to some of our friends and colleagues, in order to generate more participation and bring stakeholders' engagement to reality. So it's a great work there. Let's have a complete package for this 2 days program, and just disperse it here and there, so that we can get more buy-in, and then we can take it further from there. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. Well said. Thank you. And we will do just that. Anyone else before we let anything for the good of the meeting? You guys have been awesome. I just like, Dr. Komolafe, thank you. Dr. Sambe, thank you. Obihi, I'm not going to try that last name, but Obihi, thank you. Coach K, thank you. Dr. Timothy Adebowale, excellent contribution. Thank you. Mrs. Grace Alexander, you are fantastic. Thank you. Being paid all the time support. Thank you. Mrs. Pastor Abiolayede, you're wonderful. Miss Juliet, thank you for your contribution. Ruth, amazing. Ramon, I never got to see you. I never got to see your face. I don't know. I hope you're there. I hope you take whatever it is to utilize in your own space. And Ferd is new here. I don't know who you are either. If you can introduce yourself, that would be great. So then Dr. Adebowale just said, participation in this symposium is enough indication of interest if people outside this cohort are going to be invited in. Okay, so I guess I understand that people are interested in this, so we should go out and invite people. Is that what you're saying, Dr. Adebowale? I kind of,
no, I mean, participation in this current symposium should be taken as enough indication of interest. I mean, rather than still saying who are those who are interested, you're still planning to invite even new people in. Those who have participated, I can assume, because some are not here today. They were around yesterday. And so that somebody put time aside to participate in this, I can tell you is enough interest. If I wasn't, I wouldn't key in yesterday and today. So asking whether are you further interested, I think it's
okay, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
I see what you mean. I mean, someone who committed 5 hours yesterday to this thing and they come again this morning. Okay, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. Yeah. If that's not interest, then what is? Okay, I get it.
May I add one more thing? When you send the template, I think something that will help us move forward quicker with what Pastor Abi said is to also ask us in the template what our, not expertise, our strengths are, because we're going to come together to start something. You're going to need somebody that writes, somebody that takes minutes, somebody that looks ahead, somebody that's interested in detail. So maybe we could all put that together before our next meeting. So we'll kind of have an idea of where we fit in once we begin to work together, so that we're not spending a lot of time saying, oh no, I can do that, I can handle this, just kind of bring what we are, our strengths, show up with our strengths at the beginning. And so it's easier to allocate jobs, as it were, to each one of us. Thank you.
Good. Maybe all should take a strengths survey. Just throwing that out there. It will tell you what your strengths are, like that. All right. Ruth said terms of reference, condition to join, expectations from us. Okay, all of that we're going to have to, conditions to join. Does anybody have anything to say about that? Conditions to join. Does anybody have anything to say about that?
Yes, I do. I am very, very big on not having many, but having people that get the vision and work the vision. We're not going around traveling, doing an Israelite journey before we actually get it done. So there need to be conditions, because that's more or less what we've been talking about. What are the policies? What are the rules? What are the principles under which coaches work? Not just doing anything anyhow. Because I'm interested, but we need to have guidelines. What are we looking to build here? And these are the conditions. What do you have? What do you have to give? If that's not where we are going, we appreciate it, but then you can't be part of it. But if that's where we are going and you can add to it, oh yeah, you're welcome. People need to know, they need some guidelines, yeah.
Okay, I think that I think what Dr. Adebowale said resonates with me. Like, let's keep it to people who were in the pool, who came, let's start with those who committed time to this thing yesterday and today. Let's start there. We don't need, honestly, the more people you have, the more, look, I like small groups, okay? I like small groups. Let's start with what we have now, and then making sure that in that group, because I think if we look at all the groups yesterday, you're going to find a faith leader, you're going to find a parent, you're going to find, the only thing, I don't know if the young people showed up yesterday, so we can reach out to those people, the young people, we need them. But I think if we look at those who committed time to this yesterday and today, we can get a core group started first before we even start inviting other people in. I mean, that's what I'm thinking. Okay. Are we good? We're good? All right, so I'd like to close with a word of prayer. Does anybody mind that we pray? Dr. Sambe. Sambe. Hey.
I was just about to say it is
look,
Sambe.
Mrs. Oloyede, excuse me. I corrected myself.
Please, it's a process I can understand. Please go ahead and pray. Don't lead us into temptation. Thank you.
Oh. Did you say I should pray?
Let the pastor in the house pray.
I am a Muslim, so let's pray. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Okay.
Oh Lord God, guide us to the right path. We are very grateful for this opportunity to come around and talk about serious matter that calls for serious attention. We beseech thee to provide for us to be able to forge ahead and see this vision come true and allow us to have the benefit of the gladness of heart so that we see that what we have initiated is coming to fruition and is not going to die in our time, so that Nigeria and Nigerians will become healthier, better, and more productive, so that we can have a brighter, rewarding future. Plus God minus devil. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen. 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 Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you next month. We'll send you an executive summary of yesterday, and today we're going to create a template and send that to you. And before the meeting next month. But maybe we should decide when that meeting is together before we go. First, the first Saturday, second Saturday, third. Which one works better? Or is it a weekday? Talk to me now. The first Saturday of the month.
Let us leave that to the organizers, and let's forget.
Cool.
Thank you.
All right, Thank you, guys. Thank you, sirs, and thank you, ma'ams, and thank you, friends. I'll see you next month by God's grace. Au revoir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
Well done.
All of that.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bims, where are you?
I'm here, going through the chat.
Let's not lose the chat. So
no, don't. It's being recorded automatically. So once we get to the back end, we will get the chat. And then if you're using your laptop, then ma'am,
I got it. It will be there.
It will